This episode of ETC is brought to you by DC's Legends of Tomorrow on the CW.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to News Dump.
Flush. Ever since the nominees for this year's Academy Awards were announced last week, people have been voicing their displeasure with the fact that for the second year in a row, all 20 nominees in the acting categories are white people. In a year that featured some pretty acclaimed performances from non-white actors in movies like Straight Outta Compton, Beast of No Nation, Creed, Ex Machina, Concussion, Sicario, and more.
Yeah. For a lot of people, this is simply another confirmation for what we already know. This time last year, the LA Times published the results of a survey they'd done of the Academy of Motion Picture Sciences and determined that the people who vote on the Academy Award nominees and winners are 93% white and 76% male, with an average age of 63.
So those numbers obviously aren't very representative of the general population, but with organizations like the Academy who offer lifetime membership to filmmakers and actors who are already pretty well established, and also they don't have a very high turnover rate, you're always kind of going to be stuck in the past. Change is always going to happen very slowly.
Yeah, unlike in previous years though, some very high profile names in Hollywood are saying enough is enough, and they're boycotting the event altogether. Names like Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, and Spike Lee, which is problematic because the Smiths might be genuinely boycotting the Oscars to send a message about Hollywood race relations, or they might just be mad that Will Smith wasn't nominated for Concussion, an okay movie by most people's standards, and that they're using this as this larger issue as an excuse.
Yeah, Spike Lee's boycott is barely even newsworthy itself. The guy's been pretty vocal about his problems with white Hollywood for a very long time now. So it's nothing new, although he does raise some damn good points. He says that while it's ridiculous that the last 40 nominees in the acting categories have been all white, the real issue stems from the executive offices of the Hollywood studios and TV and cable networks. Quote, "This is where the gatekeepers decide what gets made and what gets jettisoned to turnaround or scrap heap. That's what's important. The gatekeepers, those with the green light vote."
Now, plenty of other actors have jumped in to voice their support for the sentiment of the boycott without actually saying they'll boycott the Oscars themselves. People like Don Cheadle, Mark Ruffalo, Idris Elba, David Oyelowo, Tyrese, George Clooney, Lupita Nyong'o, and William H. Macy.
There's also been some pushback against the boycott from within Hollywood's black community, with Will Smith's former Fresh Prince co-star Janet Hubert going on YouTube and calling out the Smiths for only really giving a shit about themselves. And then there's Whoopi Goldberg, who she has an Oscar of her own. She also has hosted the Oscars before. She said on The View, "You want to boycott something? Don't go see the movies that don't have your representation. That's the boycott you want." To me, we have this conversation every year. It pisses me off. She also said that boycotting the Oscars would also be boycotting host Chris Rock, which would be unfair.
Yeah, as for what we think about the whole thing, yeah, I mean, it does suck that 2 years in a row, every great acting performance by a non-white actor has been snubbed by the Academy. But for some perspective, if you look at all the acting categories winners since 1995, 12.5% of the winners have been black actors, which isn't that far off from the 13% of Americans who are African American.
Yeah, the problem starts if you actually look at all the nominees from that same period of time. The numbers aren't nearly as good.
No.
And while the old, white, male, out-of-touch demographics of the Academy's voters are probably at least partially to blame, the issue really does stem from the movie studios. And the only way you're gonna see more representation on screen is more representation behind the scenes. Or at the very least, more willingness to greenlight scripts that actually accurately reflect the diverse population of this country.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There's two sides to everything.
It's complicated. It's always gonna be more complicated. And I get the being mad at the Oscars.
It's a good sentiment, but
yeah, there's more to it than that. You're not, boycotting the Oscars isn't going to fix the problem, and in a lot of ways it's distracting from the real problem.
Yeah, there's a lot more to this issue than the stupid headlines that people are sharing on either side. So, moving on, finally we do have some actual news for you that isn't related to hot button racial issues, like the fact that HBO is airing a 7.5-hour cut of The Godfather called The Godfather Epic, which features a chronological edit of The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, and features a bunch of deleted scenes from both of the movies.
The Godfather Part 1 and 2 are easily some of the best movies ever made, and also one of the rare instances where the second film is better than the first in a series. They tell the story of the Corleone family, an Italian-American crime family originating in Sicily with Vito Corleone, and then continuing into the United States in the next generation with Michael Corleone.
Young Vito was played by Robert De Niro, old Vito was played by Marlon Brando, and Michael Corleone was played by Al Pacino, all three of whom delivered some of the best performances of their careers. If you're into crime movies at all, they are must-see films. Just don't bother with part 3. Get out of here.
Anyway, if you haven't seen the first 2 Godfather movies, this new edit probably isn't for you. Or maybe it is. I don't know.
We got a day to kill.
Neither of us have seen it yet, but it's definitely something that any fan of the original version should be interested in, assuming you've got an entire day to devote to watching one movie.
Yeah, exactly. And next up, the countdown is officially over. Well, tomorrow, if you're watching this on Saturday when it drops. The countdown is over. X-Files, the new event, is here.
Yeah, are you guys gonna be watching that? I know I will.
We're probably watching it right now if you're watching this on Sunday.
Yeah, this will be, I have an antenna for my TV to watch broadcast television. I'll be plugging that into the old HDMI and using it for one of the 2 times a year that I use it. The other one is the Oscars. So, yeah, it'd be cool.
And, oh yeah, they're broadcasting the Grammys live this year, so everyone that isn't on the East Coast, get ready for that. Speaking of award shows live.
I love how that took this long.
Yeah.
For a show that films in Los Angeles.
And doesn't air live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Very strange. Plus on Twitter, you got to see comedians' jokes in a time lapse between the East Coast and West Coast.
It's terrible.
All those New York comedians are getting to the juicy bits early. And then the rest of us are looking like Amy Schumer's, picking up the scraps and turning them into new jokes. We're kidding, it wasn't that big of a deal. She really didn't steal anyone's jokes on purpose,
No.
as far as we're concerned. Well, duh, I was getting to
Ricky
it.
started watching a show called Angie, Tribeca.
It's really, really funny. It's like Naked Gun or Airplane or Police Squad, but brand new. It is, there's so many jokes per minute, it reminds me of like British comedy almost.
What's the JPM?
Except there's no subtlety to this
like
at all.
30 JPMs?
I don't know, it's pretty high up there. I'd say at least 20 JPMs.
Wow, pretty high JPMs.
It's a pretty high JPM rate, but no, it's a really, really good show. They kicked the whole thing off with a 25-hour marathon where they just looped the first season over and over and over again. So it stars Rashida Jones. There's a whole bunch of guest appearances that are great. And also there's a dog, there's a police dog that they treat as a human, which is
always great.
It's great. Anyways, just watch it. If you don't like absurd comedy, like Naked Gun or like Airplane or like Hot Shots, then you're not gonna like this. But if you are one of the people that can laugh at this stuff, it's pretty fucking perfect.
TV was getting too serious.
Yeah.
It's nice to have something dumb again.
Yeah, if you think Brooklyn Nine-Nine is crazy, this
makes Brooklyn Nine-Nine look like Cops.
Yeah.
The series.
Yes. All right, guys, that's it for News Dump this week. Leave all of your bigoted comments in the comment section below.
Tell us how white guilt liberal we are, or how
these 2 white guys have to go explain the racial tensions in Hollywood.
I just would like a little more diversity.
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask?
Well, I think we both agreed that there were a lot of great movies this year that got snubbed for no reason.
I mean, and
Straight Outta Compton. Ex Machina was incredible.
I mean, yeah, and come on.
Look, come on. Are we automatically members of the Academy because we're white?
Yeah.
Good.